Pat, from How I Became a Wave, I suppose, tell us a little bit about you and why the name?
I think it's the first question that I get whenever I introduce myself at gigs is how I became a wave and where it came from. So it came from originally this poem by Mary Oliver, I Go Down to the Shore, is the name of the poem. And to me, it struck me about how it's almost like this kind of call to stoicism, which sounds very fancy, but really it's this idea that, you know, people always kind of project onto nature and the outside world, and it's very easy to become intently focused on yourself. In the poem, the protagonist goes down to the sea and kind of tries to tell the sea about their problems, and the sea kind of, you know, replies that, like, you know, that sounds like a you problem. I've got work to do. I don't know, it's been the kind of the essence of the How I Became Wave project, where it's trying to kind of like look for perspective in kind of different moments.
How did you first get into music growing up? Was there someone, I suppose, within your family, or are you the only person within your family that can sing?
I'm the only one unfortunate enough to be pursuing it as late as this. It very much came from my mother's side. All of my mother's side would have all been very musical, and my mother and my aunt had a little group. So they're Australian. My mother is Australian, and my grandfather would have been a fantastic singer, a very different kind of singer, I think, to me. So it came from that side, and then, you know, you kind of, as you become, you know, a teenager, you start getting into your own scenes. My scene and me and my friends, it was all about music. It was really all about music. It was all about, that's how you identified yourself, you know. So I think it was a lucky kind of mixing of those two things, just kind of having it there and having it not being an unusual thing to kind of want to, you know, sit down with a guitar and sing. And then just having that whole sense of like opening up your musical world through your own friends, you know.
So it's always been there. You've never really wanted to be anything else?
Yeah, it's always been there. And throughout the last however many years, I've always been stuck in music and in the arts in a lot of different ways. It's my personal life. It's my professional life. It's at the core of everything. And again, probably not just music, but the idea of a multi-discipline approach, I think, which is really, really important for the How I Became a Wave project. It's that sense of collaboration, working with other musicians, definitely, but also working with visual artists to try to explore different areas of creativity.
And is there someone that you look up to when you're writing and performing your music?
They can be very different disciplines. It's funny that I made a remark recently that, you know, when you're sitting at home trying to write and you're sitting at a piano or you're sitting down with a guitar or even just a notebook, it's so far removed from having to, you know, speak to an audience in between songs. They're just such radically different skill sets. I think in terms of performing, I mean, like, I remember seeing Tom Waits a number of years ago in Dublin, and it was one of the most incredible things. The way he was able to captivate the audience and embody the songs, it was remarkable. I think that he's fantastic from a musicianship perspective and from a kind of collaborative perspective. I think Bon Iver is an incredible performer, and the group are incredible performers. In terms of writing, I think, funnily enough, for me, it's more, I get a lot of influences from literature and poetry. That's really, really important to me. At the minute, I'm going through a serious Sylvia Plath phase. Absolutely amazing, kind of blows my mind. Certainly from kind of, poetry and from literature. I love Anais Mitchell. I don't know if you know Anais Mitchell. She's an American songwriter. She wrote Hadestown, and she's been in Ireland a number of times. I was lucky enough to sing with her once on stage. I think that she's exceptional. So they're probably the people I would say that I look up to most.
And for your own, I suppose, songwriting and style, how would you describe your style of music?
It's quite difficult, I think, always to try and pin this down. I think it's quite intimate in a way. It's definitely kind of folk based. It is like I write on guitar and I write on piano. I'm trying to invite the listener into the song. I remember at the very beginning it was like, you're going to have to really listen up because this is, you know, aggressively quiet, is what I would have described it. Yeah. It's also like, it's quite lush. There's a lot of like strings and keys, but I definitely think it's soft, and it's about like drawing the listener in so that they can listen, they can kind of like have a poke around in all of the little corners, as opposed to being something that would have been big and brash and hitting you in the face.
I'm getting that your upcoming album is slightly peaceful in a way.
I think it is. I think it's like it's definitely mellow, and it's about previously in other different kind of like musical projects that I've worked in. I kind of always had this idea that you had to be out there and you had to be loud and you had to grab people's attention. Whereas this project is completely different. It's kind of like I started from myself and kind of built this thing here around myself, and I'm kind of inviting people in as opposed to shouting at people.
And when is this album coming out?
So we released the album and it's called How I Became a Wave also, and it's coming out on the 27th of March.
Amazing. And one of the tracks from that album is your track Swell. Tell us a little bit about it, and is there a personal story behind it for you?
Swell, again, I think comes from the kind of, it was one of the first songs that I wrote as part of How I Became a Wave. Yeah, it refers back to kind of that Mary Oliver thing. It's that idea that like sometimes we look for reflections too much outside, and that we're probably better off having a look on the inside first. That's the kind of like the basic thing for Swell. It's also like, I think that there is kind of a sense of exhilaration through it. When you hear the song, you know what I mean. It's very much like there's big strings, there's big vocals. I think that it's probably, I would say, influenced by a number of trips up to the west coast of Ireland.
Right here in County Clare, I suppose so.
Absolutely. I've spent plenty of time up on the coast in Clare, and I love the place altogether. And certainly I would say that that's the first little bits of inspiration for this song very much came from walking the beaches and the rocks up there.
And you have supported incredible artists, the likes of Lisa Hannigan, The Villagers, John Spillane. But if you can pick your favourite that you've opened up for, who would it be?
You're putting me on the spot here. I have found that like since I've kind of kickstarted with How I Became a Wave again, because I've got two small kids, getting to gigs and reminding myself how special live music in the right venue can be has just been such like a wonder. And Connor from Villagers, like exceptionally talented. John Spillane, the Bard of the Lee, always amazes me. I've got a huge amount of respect for Lisa, and I love her voice, and we did a couple of really, really gorgeous shows. I think coming back to Gemma Hayes' music though, after like a little while away, has been really special. I think that like remembering how much of a fantastic songwriter she is, getting to hear her with a full band as well has been like, it's been quite a privilege.
And is there someone that you would love to open up for, or is there somewhere that you would love to play?
Like, I would say I'd love to coming back to Anais Mitchell, just because she's such a special songwriter, and when she performs, you're there, you kind of like fall into the song kind of head first. I would absolutely love to perform or to do something with Anais. And when it comes down to where, I would probably say, actually we might as well just go up the west coast. Like Anais Mitchell in Lahinch would be lovely. I'd take that.
If anybody in Lahinch is listening and can make this happen, do let me know. But I just want to go back to Anais for a minute. You said that she wrote Hadestown, and now that I think about it, I've listened to Hadestown, and she's it's more of a poem rather than a musical. Is that where you get your inspiration from her?
Yeah, it's this perfect melding of like melody and harmony with lyrics. Before, I used to think that having lyrics that were true to what you were feeling was kind of enough for a good song, because it represented like authenticity. Now that I've grown up a little bit, I think your lyrics need to be full of musicality also. They need to be able to match the music, and that's the real craft in it. For Anais, the lyrics match completely and utterly the music. They weave in with the music, and then they have their own sense of like the stories behind them, the imagery behind them. They're just really, really beautiful. I think that she's as good a songwriter as there is like in the world today.
And you have been named in the Irish Independent's Ones to Watch for 2026. How did that feel, I suppose, being in a list of amazing people? I think that the country is like awash with amazing talent and such a breadth of different music as well. It's funny for me to a certain degree, because I would have been in a band called The Hard Ground back in the early kind of 2010s, and we had, a kind of reasonable amount of success. So it's funny to be a little bit further down the road and to be revisiting this now that I'm,
have a wife and 2 kids and a very, very different kind of type of life. It's an absolute honour to be mentioned in amongst these exceptional artists, though. I can't say that enough. Like, Ireland has always kind of punched above its weight when you look at the talent and the breadth of what's to offer, from like, you know, Clifford's to Yin Yang. So I'm very honoured.
And I suppose finally, is there anything else exciting that you can tell us about that you're doing in the near future? Some gigs maybe?
We are in Cork and Dublin in April. We're supporting Joan Shelly in Whelan's. Joan Shelly, who is, you might have to ask me again, who's my favourite person that I've supported after the Joan gig. So that's at the end of March inside Whelan's. We do have a number of other gigs lined up over the summer. We're going to be announcing them over the next couple of weeks, and we're very much hoping to see people along the way. And I would say that it's worth coming to the kind of the How I Became a Wave band gigs. Even though they're quiet, they fill the room. If you know what I mean, the sound does fill the room. So.
And finally, one last thing, where can people find you on social media if they are looking to stay up to date and maybe catch those gigs over the summer?
Yeah, so it's howibecameawave.com. All of the links are there. I think we're probably, it's How I Became a Wave on Instagram and on TikTok and all of the other bits and pieces. I know I've been really, really practicing trying to say my name, trying to say How I Became a Wave. Because after every gig, it's like something to do with a wave, if you can tell me again. So How I Became a Wave.